What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris Infinite, and today we're going to talk about base assaults. Easily one of the best things added over the span of Generation Zero's lifetime. Up there with the Reaper in terms of being one of the most productive endgame activities that we could take part in. But just because it's one of the best doesn't mean it can't get better. So today, I'm gonna spit out a bunch of ideas I've been thinking would spice up base assaults and lead them to their fullest potential. Fixing bugs, enriching our looting experience and combat experience, giving us more things to use against Phoenix and more things for Phoenix to use against us. So the shortest bit we'll talk about here today, the bug fixing. The unironic ticks in the system, and one of the biggest things that tends to block Generation Zero from reaching its own potential. The bugs in base building absolutely need to be a high priority here, to avoid their issues becoming more errant than they already are. There are three major bugs that I can think of that really wreck the experience for a lot of players, myself included, sadly. One of the first major ones are bases going batshit crazy. Like, completely haywire. This old bug of infinite tick spawns has come back over the past two updates and is meaner than ever. Now typically being found at tier 3 base locations. Basically, the enemies aggro on random positions in the base and attack until the game crashes, spawning ticks even after they're dead themselves, which causes a whole muck of other issues. This is the big one, and I really hope the team can get this issue sorted out as fast as possible, as it removes your ability to go to entire chunks of the map without risking these batshit insane bases crashing your game. The next big one's that bases aren't always generating properly, either duplicating command centers, making walls insanely thick, having crazy amounts of turrets, and a small chance of having spawners duplicate too, though the last one's not really such a bad thing. Really, it's just the command centers that are the problem here, making things confusing in the end stage for players, and just outright behaving weirdly. The thick walls and turrets are actually a welcome challenge to me overall though, but if those have to go to have less buggy base generation, then ultimately that's a good thing. And the last major bug are bases reverting to lower levels. It's rare, but sometimes you'll have your base go from level 3 back to 2 or even 1. This one I've only seen a few times, but if a player maybe isn't paying attention, they might be stuck grinding a level 1 base for ages, just to realize in their next play session it was level 3 all along. You can fix this by quitting to menu, just in case if anyone ever runs into this issue. But even with these issues, it doesn't change the fact that base assaults are some of the most enjoyable activities we've seen added to the game, and their potential to grow and become even more rewarding and enjoyable is huge, dudes. So let's get into some ideas on how we can see this thing continue to grow and evolve here. A big one is the process of approaching the base itself. Right now, if you get spotted by a Seeker, you have a rush of all the machines inside the base coming out to fight you. If you take all these machines down quickly enough, the base doesn't have time for reinforcements to arrive before you start going to town. But what if there were a special set of machines to meet you? Meaning, machines in the base would be further bolstered on your first approach to a base, maybe giving the base enough time to respawn machines and keep that pressure up. In the side mission The Virus in Phoenix Rising, we see these chambers of doggos used at Phoenix bases on the southern coast. So what if, when the base assault is taken on for the first time in a play session, that the base could have bays like these on the outer perimeter, sending out waves of doggos to meet you as a bit of a welcoming party to the whole base assault. It really spices up that first initial bit of combat in the whole process, I think. And speaking of spicing things up, it'd be crazy to see more traps and defenses at these Phoenix bases. Like, picture rocket turrets. I don't even need to say much more, do I? Rocket turrets would be really intense to be caught out by, and would provide a much more chaotic form of defense for these bases. Maybe with a little bit less range than the auto turrets, just to give the player an opportunity to escape if they don't have steady feet active, but bringing much more bang for your buck as you take on the base assault. And for traps, this is something I've thought since the very get-go when bases dropped. Frickin' gas mines, dude! We could have mines that do outright damage like we normally do, and then ones that disorient and slowly chip away at your health. Step on a few in a room and you're asking for a bad time. Gas mines would be the sort of deadly stuff Phoenix would pack into his base, using whatever he can to get an advantage against us flesh bandits. Having rocket turrets to get us on the outside and gas mines to get us on the inside, the two of these would be deadly additions to the Phoenix base assault process. But something kinda more along the lines of quality of life is making the beacons for shield generators turn on every once in a while when you're taking down the Phoenix base. It could be very easy to lose track of these shield generators in the process, and having their beacon turn on for a short second every once in a while can help the player keep their bearings in the procedurally and randomly generated bases. But looking at enriching the options that we have as the player at these bases, it'd be cool to see bigger versions of the little EMP boyos and the fuel cells on the walls. The EMP towers, as we'll call them, could be hefty, durable structures in the Phoenix base. But if you manage to take it down with something like, I don't know, 4 RPGs, then you get a huge EMP that will stun a large amount of machines in the area. It could be kinda like the Phoenix servers, but instead destructible. I mean, these two structures do look pretty dang similar, and I personally love mixing up those emplaced EMPs into base assault combat, so having maybe one big one to go for would be a fun way to switch up your tactics on the fly. And for the fuel cells, it would be another fun thing to explode at these bases. But also looking at things from a lore perspective, these bases are supposed to emulate human buildings, and I think that should extend beyond our base building and look at some structures that are commonly found around the map, like the gas storage tanks all around the Swedish countryside. Now, something I think is necessary is making these Phoenix bases really relevant to endgame players, and one way I think that could happen is by adding in a new rare loot cache that has a small chance of spawning in when a base hits level 3. But unlike the other loot caches, would only be a one-time loot, in order to avoid progression-breaking farming. These could maybe work like rival loot too, where it only shows the good stuff after your player hits a certain level, but could offer rare endgame loot like uranium and 6 crown stuff. It'd be a fun new way to get this high-end loot, which I think endgame players need more variety in how they can obtain this stuff. Base assaults are a great new source, but could have that little bit extra if we had rare loot caches to possibly find along the way. Then a final more miscellaneous thing is giving functionality to the searchlights, making them act as lures to machines kinda similar to the way Seekers do, calling in further reinforcements from wandering nearby machines, just kinda keeping up the spice. This way, our base assaults could have higher chances of drawing in large machines like tanks and harvesters from nearby that could then just add to the chaos while you take on the base assault. Heck, I'd even love to see spawners for big machines someday, but I think this other stuff is maybe a bit more necessary first, personally. So, a heck of a bunch of ideas on how to improve base assaults. From the bugs that are the most important to fix, to making combat and getting inside of the bases more difficult, giving us more things to work with and more loot to potentially obtain. But now that we're at the end, I want to know, what do you think would be a good addition to base assaults? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. You know I love making these brainstorms and think tanks to really help the team, so your input is greatly appreciated here, my dudes. But anyway, for now, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.